Hello, dear students. Welcome to another session of learning. So, today we're going to see the anatomy and physiology of speech. To be specific, we're going to see the organs of speech. So, the organs of speech include three. They are the respiratory system, the phonatory system, and the articulatory system. And in this lecture, we'll be seeing in detail about each of these three systems and how they help in the production of speech sounds. So let's see the first system, which is the respiratory system. The respiratory system includes the lungs, the muscles of the chest, and the windpipe, or what we call as the trachea. So the primary function of the lungs, we all know, is to breathe or to respire. And there are two acts which the lung performs. One is inhalation and the other is exhalation of air. So inhaling or inhalation of air, when it takes place, what happens is the muscles of the chest, it expands, and consequently we see that the lungs also expand. It draws in, it draws the outside air inside, and that is how we breathe in. And as we inhale, we see that the lungs are filled with air and they expand. Next is exhalation or exhale, wherein we see that the muscles of the chest over here, they contract as the air is thrown out from the lungs, and we see that we breathe out, and we see that the lungs also contracts. So this is inhalation and exhalation, and during the inhalation, the exhalation process, we see various speech sounds are also produced. So moving forward, we see that the respiratory system, it provides the air also, the production of speech sounds I already was mentioning. And there are three types of airstream mechanisms that help in this process. And we're going to see each in detail. First, we will be seeing about the glottalic airstream mechanism, also called as pharyngeal airstream mechanism. So here what happens is we see that in this airstream mechanism, the glottis, which is closed for the production of sounds, and we see the air is used, this airstream is used for speech sounds. An example is the Sindhi language, in which the sounds are produced with glottalic ingressive airstream mechanism, also called as implosive. So this is the first kind of airstream mechanism. The second kind of airstream mechanism is velaric airstream mechanism. So here sounds are produced with the air in front of the velum, or it's also called as the soft palate. And in this we see that the passage of air from the lung is blocked by the back of the tongue, which makes firm contact with the velum or the soft palate. And so this airstream mechanism is called as velaric airstream mechanism. And we see that the African languages and some South American languages produce speech sounds with the velaric airstream mechanism. So we've seen the glottalic, then we saw the velaric. Now we're going to see the last type of airstream mechanism, which is pulmonic airstream mechanism. So in pulmonic airstream mechanism, we see that air is exhaled from the lungs, and over here, which initiates the airstream. And we see that the air is breathed initiates the airstream for the production of speech sounds, and it is also called as the pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism. And almost all languages of the world, they use pulmonic egressive airstream mechanism or the pulmonic airstream mechanism. So this is the first organ of speech which we saw, which is the respiratory system. So here's a diagrammatic representation of the different organs of speech, and let's move forward to the next organ, which is the phonatory system. So the phonatory system, it is comprised of the larynx in the throat, and we see that the larynx is where we have the glottis is there, and also the vocal cords are also there. So based on how the vocal cords are held loosely, or if they are joined together, we find voiced and voiceless sounds are produced in the English language. So this is about the phonatory system. Now moving on to the third, which is the articulatory system, and which is the most important system in the production of speech sounds. So it includes various organs. They are the pharynx, the lips, the teeth ridge, the hard palate, the soft palate, the uvula, and the tongue. So we'll be seeing the location of each of this. We can see it actually in this diagram. We see, each of these being represented in the diagram. First, we see the pharynx located somewhere over here. Then we see the lips. We have both the upper and the lower lip. then we have the teeth, then you have the teeth ridge, then you have the hard palate above it, and then you have the soft palate, and then you have the uvula, and finally you have also the tongue. So this is diagrammatically represented in this diagram. So we also say, let's see the description, or let's know a little more about the articulatory system. So the pharynx, it extends from the top of the larynx to the roof of the tongue, which lies opposite it. And lips, all if you know where it is. Teeth, also you're aware. The teeth ridge or the alveolar ridge, it is actually the convex part of the roof of the mouth. It is just behind the upper teeth. So that portion where you have this rugged, portion, that's called the teeth ridge. And after the teeth ridge, you have one hollow space, and it's quite hard. It's called the hard palate. And after that, you have a soft area which is called the soft palate or the velum. And after the velum, you have a small tongue-like, projection which hangs, and that soft tongue-like projection is called as the uvula, and it is fleshy, and it is in the small shape of a tongue. And then finally you have the tongue. So these are the articulatory system organs. And so description of few of the organs. So the soft palate, it acts as a valve in the opening and closing of the nasal passage of air, and with the help of this oral sounds are produced. So sounds, when they are produced when the soft palate is raised and the passage to the nose is closed, then air cannot escape through the nose, and so air has to go through the mouth. And so we see oral sounds are produced, like the initial sounds in bag, saw, date. So in all this, we see that the nasal passage is closed and the oral passage is opened, and then sounds are produced. And this is also called as velic closure, because we have the closure of the nasal passage by the raising of the soft palate. Next, we also have nasal sounds. The nasal sounds are produced when the soft palate is lowered and the passage into the nose is opened, and so the mouth is blocked and air escapes through the nose. So we see the sounds in the last sounds in the words some, sung, sun. So in all this, we see the usage of how the air is blocked in the mouth, and we see that air escapes through the nose. So this is also called as velic closure because of the lowering of the soft palate or the velum. Then there are also something called as nasalized sounds. So nasalized sounds are produced when the soft palate is lowered, the nasal passage is open, both the oral passages also blocked, and air escapes through the nose and the mouth. Intermittently, we will see that air escapes to both. So some words which uses nasalized sounds are born in French, I, camel in cat in Hindi. So let's the Hindi words for I and camel. So this was about the soft palate. And now moving on to the tongue. So the tongue is the most flexible of all the organs, and we see it's the most mobile. It can move backward, forward, upward, sideward. It touches the different parts of the mouth, and we see that in pronunciation, the vowels pronunciation, we see that the tongue is raised or lowered without touching the roof of the mouth, but when it comes to consonants, it makes contact with different parts of the mouth. So the tongue also has different parts. So the tongue has five parts. They are the tip of the tongue, blade of the tongue, middle of the tongue, back of the tongue, and the root of the tongue. So let's see a description of each in this slide. So we see the tip of the tongue is also called as the apex, and words like thank, brother, the third sound. For the production of the third sound, we use the tip of the tongue. Next is the blade of the tongue. It is located after the apex, and it is opposite to the teeth ridge, and we see the sounds s, z, d, n, for the production of which the blade of the tongue is used. Next is the middle of the tongue, which is also called the front of the tongue. It lies opposite to the hard palate, and sounds like sh in ship and e in eat. We produce it with the help of the front of the tongue. Next is the back of the tongue, also called as the dorsum. It lies opposite to the soft palate. So, the sounds ah, k, and g. So all these are produced, the sounds in arms, coat, king, good. All the initial sounds are produced with the back of the tongue. And finally, we see the root of the tongue, which lies beyond the back of the tongue. So these were the articulatory system. So we see there are active articulators and passive articulators. So the active articulators are the lips, glottis, tongue, vocal cords. Active articulators are those which can move and which are the most mobile when the sounds are produced, speech sounds are produced. So we see that the lips have the upper and the lower. The tongue has 5 parts. We already saw. Then we also see there are passive articulators. The passive articulators are the teeth, alveolar ridge, palate, the soft and the hard palates, the uvula, the velar, and the epiglottis. We see none of these organs they move during the production of speech sounds. So overall, today we saw the organs of speech. So the organs of speech, there are 3 organs of speech. They are the respiratory system, phonatory system, and the articulatory system. We saw the description of the respiratory system, then we saw the phonatory system, and finally we saw about the articulatory system. So hope all of you understood today's session and continued learning and enjoy learning. Happy learning everyone. Thank you.